Hey guys. Oh, I haven't hey guys in a while. Feels good. I'm going to review Madam Web this week. If you know my work from IGN or Fandom, you know I've done a lot of reviews, including on video. It's been a little while though, so I decided to start getting back into it. Very much just off the cuff right now, and also I got no graphics, I got no B-roll. It's just a white dude sitting in front of some toys, and that is groundbreaking for YouTube. I know, having a white guy, toys, and talking about movies, but I'm here to make it happen because I think that there's really a place for that if someone is brave enough to try. So let's talk about Madam Web, which is the fourth of Sony's Spider-Man adjacent movies. They've had the two Venom movies, they've had Morbius, now this one. As for those previous three, I haven't been into any of them. I know Venom does have some people that were into it. I thought Tom Hardy was really fun and interesting in that, but the movie itself didn't work for me. The sequel worked even less. And Morbius, well, I think most of us are on the same wavelength about Morbius and where it's at. But Madam Web, unfortunately, is another one that doesn't work. When I was walking out of the movie, in fact, at the screening, I saw a group of people and they were debating which was worse / better between Morbius and Madam Web, and I just don't think that's an argument where there's a winner. You know, it's you don't want to be on either side of that coin, because not like anyone was saying this one's great. It's just like which is worse. Madam Web is a very silly movie. Right from the start, it has some big dialogue problems. You know how TV pilots have that issue where often where people are doing exposition that just sounds so unnatural, where they're kind of relaying to someone who should already know, well, you know, ever since you took that job, you haven't been yourself, and you know that I am going through this problem with my mom and this and that, and you're like, why are they repeating all this information? They do that in Madam Web, and as it goes on, a huge issue is people saying things out loud that don't need to be said. Information is being shown to us and to the main character, and they are seeing it, and then they say it in a way that is so silly is the nice way to say it. Sometimes it's flat out stupid. It's like, why is she saying that? Doesn't need to happen. I haven't talked about the plot of this movie, I realize, and I know people mileage will vary on what is appropriate in a review to talk about plot. Some people want no details. I'm of the opinion that if it's in the trailers, and if it's in the promos, and if it's in interviews made to promote the movie before it opens, it's fair game. So that's kind of where I lie on that. So that's what I'm going to do. Dakota Johnson plays Cassie Webb here. The year is 2003 for reasons. And she is a paramedic working in New York. This character is, if you saw Ambulance, the Michael Bay movie Ambulance a couple years ago, you've kind of met a version of this character, because like the main character in Ambulance, she's a paramedic who's great at her job, but has no personal skills. So it's like, she can save you, but once she saves you, she wants nothing to do with you. And we'll see if she can get through. If someone get through that tough exterior and get her to feel, damn it, feel. Cassie has an accident that leaves her with some strange abilities, and she is getting premonitions. She's not in a time loop. Her abilities are almost like Final Destination style. Premonitions, seeing a few minutes ahead, usually of something bad that's going to happen, and now that gives her the ability to possibly change that thing and make it so the bad thing won't happen. In the middle of that, a guy named Ezekiel Sims is jumping around New York in a Spider-Man-esque costume, and he is targeting three high school girls that he thinks are a threat to him, and he wants to kill them. And so Cassie is trying to protect these girls who she peripherally is connected to initially, doesn't really know them, while also figuring out what are her powers, why does she have them, what's the deal there, and stop Ezekiel. This movie doesn't work. Dakota Johnson is fine as a lead. She's kind of a polarizing actor, it seems, and some people don't think she's very good, and some people like her a lot. I think she's been very good in certain projects that you kind of have to cast her right. That's a lot of actors like that. Find the right role for her. But I think she's good in this movie. Cassie, you know, like I said, her kind of shtick is that she's bad at interpersonal relationships and she's not a people person. And this movie has so many unintentional laughs, but I will give it credit on having a few scenes that are pretty legitimately intentionally funny involving Cassie. There's one at a baby shower that I think is probably the best one as far as how Cassie interacts with the other women and how she doesn't know how to say the right thing. It's a good, funny scene. Too many other scenes, though, you were laughing for the wrong reasons. At the screening I was at, there was definitely a lot of chuckles where there weren't supposed to be. A lot of them come from Ezekiel. This villain does not work. This is just a really goofy villain. Tahar Rahim, who plays Ezekiel, has been very good in other projects. So I feel like I can't say like there's something, you know, it's all on him because he's given some thankless stuff to do. Every time they cut to this guy, you're kind of already sort of like either groaning or laughing because he speaks in such a heavy-handed way and he just has these ponderous speeches at one point to a woman that he just met at a club and took home, and what he's saying to her, not a club, at a show, it's okay, that's not important, what he's saying to her, he is so insane, you're like, well, this woman would get up and run out of there, but she doesn't because it's that type of movie. She just listens to him saying his insane stuff. One of the goofier villains I've seen in a long time. And then as for the three sort of supporting actors playing these young women who need to be protected, you got Sydney Sweeney, Celeste O'Connor, and Isabella Merced, who are all, to say Sydney Sweeney is up and coming at this point is very underestimating because she just was the co-lead in a big hit rom-com. But, you know, they're all on the rise. Sydney Sweeney especially sort of having a moment. But their characters are whatever. I mean, they're these three girls. They're all given very sort of specific traits. And there's one really clunky scene where they kind of almost literally say, what's your backstory? What's your deal? And they kind of say it. Here's my thing. Here's my thing I'm trying to get over. And that's about it. That's it. There's a moment near the end of this movie where one of them has to almost say, hey, this was our arc. This was the journey we all went on together. It's that kind of just like heavy-handed movie where it just feels like studio noted to death, like that they never thought that the audience could follow what was happening. So that's like, just say it all. Just say everything. It's all, tell, don't show, doing it the wrong way. This movie does that over and over again. I guess on some level maybe it could be a campy delight because there is that level to it. Our audience I saw it with didn't fully go in on that. We weren't like uproariously laughing. We were just kind of chuckling when we weren't supposed to and groaning. But I think some people might embrace it for that sort of campy level. But as far as an actual successful superhero movie, no, this is not one. There's also that problem superhero movies have of trying to give a lot of comic book lore and explanations of powers, backstory, abilities, and it can sound cheesy said out loud. And there's ways to deal with that, though. One way is through humor, right? Maybe you have the snarky character who says, this sounds ridiculous, and some people hate when they do that. But you can do it earnestly, too. You just kind of have to figure out what's the way to say it, what's the way to kind of tweak the language and have it tonally land. This movie never figures that out. There are so many parts that are just like, oh man, they're just saying it. They're just saying it, and it sounds really dumb, unfortunately. And this is coming from me who loves comic books. I'm all in on that stuff. But I also know that you kind of have to be delicate with how you deal with this in live action. This movie is anything but delicate. I haven't mentioned Adam Scott and Emma Roberts, two notable actors in this movie. I won't say who they play because Sony has decided not to say who they play, even though it's out there on the internet and it's also given to you the moment you meet them. It's not some later reveal. We are told who these characters are from the second they appear, which is pretty early for both of them. You reach the end of the movie and you're just wondering, why were they in the movie? I love Adam Scott. So I'm just saying, why were those characters in the movie? And it feels like kind of just sort of for a cheap, like, ooh, that's blank in this movie. But then it doesn't really add up at the end. It doesn't need to be those characters. It's really just there for the audience and to get that, eyebrow rise, but then there's nothing else to it. without saying anything about where the third act goes plot wise and where it ends up, I will say that there are no credit scenes at the end of this movie. No mid or post credit scene. And that's not a bad thing, of course. It's, in fact, there are some people saying, hey, we've gone too far with these credit scenes. There can be credit scene fatigue, and hey, an ending is an ending. That's fine. But I have to say, with a movie like this, it really kind of stands out that they don't have a credit scene, because it really feels like they kind of know, Sony kind of knows this is probably going to be one and done. Why bother teasing something that isn't going to happen? We did it with Morbius, and it was notoriously bad. So I guess I'll be thankful they didn't try that again here. By the way, I guess I say this is slightly better than Morbius, but this is the biggest curve, biggest sliding scale possible. So don't take that as any sort of huge endorsement for Madam Web. Yeah, I wish I liked this movie. I really, of all these Sony Spider-Man adjacent movies, this is the one I kind of was most intrigued by, because it was such a weird one to do. She is such a sort of not obscure character, but not one you'd expect to be the lead of the movie. And with these other, characters in it that, these actresses are playing, that are all notable sort of Spider-Woman / Spider-Girls in the comics. They've all had various different names. That was interesting going in, but none of it adds up. It just kind of feels like this movie doesn't justify its existence, and just kind of sits there, unfortunately. The final act too, it has that thing of you kind of just zone out. At least I zoned out by the time the final conflict was happening. And I know that there's a lot of super movies where people say, hey, it was pretty good until that final fight where it was kind of just by the numbers. But this movie is not very good. And then that final fight has that same thing of like, okay, I'm watching things explode, but I don't really care. Anyway, that is my unfortunate, not glowing review of Madam Web. If you check it out, please let us know what you thought in the comments. Thanks for checking out this review. I don't know yet exactly the cadence. It's a fancy word, cadence. How often I'll be doing these. We'll figure that out as I'm sort of experimenting. Maybe I'll get some B-roll at some point. We'll see. Crazier things that happen. Anyway, guys, thanks for listening to this review. Take care. Bye.